Hi guys, so just finished watching qualifying and it was very close. Like we are talking milliseconds close. So close between the top two, but we'll get onto that in a second. I'm going to take you through all of it. So we had FP3 earlier in the day. And the Ferraris actually came out on top in that session. I think Leclerc put in the fastest time with Vettel's second. So Ferrari had found some pace, and it meant that across all three practice sessions this weekend, there was a different constructor being on top of the fastest time. So maybe that'll lead to an interesting race. Not too sure, but let's get on to the main thing, and that is qualifying. So, Q1, no kind of real shocks and things. The Williams, as per usual, went out in Q1. Also, Lance Stroll, who's having a torrid time of trying to get out of Q1 this season. He finished qualified 18th in that position. Daniel Kvyat actually struggled with pace, and he was 0.3 of a second off his teammate who made it into, well, Albon actually made it all the way to Q3 in the end. So he struggled there and he qualified 17th. And then the Haas of Magnussen. Haas were actually feeling pretty good in the interview in between sessions. Magnussen feeling pretty good about Haas's pace going into qualifying, and then come qualifying, they were just struggling on the front end, and he went out in Q1 and qualified in 16th position. Q2, maybe shocks, you can say, in terms of it, although he hasn't historically done well at Silverstone. Carlos Sainz in the McLaren went out in Q2, and then the rest, it was both Alfa Romeos went out, the Haas of Grosjean also went out, and then Sergio Perez's Racing Point also went out. So the Haas and Racing Point seem to be dropping nearer the back end of that midfield battle now. So it's a bit of a struggle for them. And the Alfa Romeos, they were looking good, but they seem to be somewhere in the middle in terms of that. Giovinazzi almost made it through into Q3 for the second time or third time this season. I'm not sure, I checked that, but he's started to pick up his form actually in recent weeks, and again he's out qualified Raikkonen this weekend. So for his personal perspective, that's very good. But yeah, the McLaren that was looking stronger through the practice sessions, the McLaren of Carlos Sainz actually didn't make it through. So we now get on to Q3. So Q3 we had, this means that out of the not top 6 drivers, Ricciardo and Hulkenberg, so both Renaults made it through, so a very strong performance to them. So maybe it does look like they've sorted out any small issues that they had in Austria, and Danny Rick finishing the highest of those in 7th position. Lando put in some good times, finished in 8th position on there. I'll put up, I've done throughout this whole process of the, what am I putting up? Putting up the positions of where they finished. Albon, like I said when I did my roundup yesterday, he was looking good this weekend. He was looking strong on track in 9th position, so really good for the Toro Rosso getting into Q3 there. And Hulkenberg, actually, it was just on the last sets, he managed to put in the slowest time out of those 4 drivers, and he starts 10th tomorrow. But good for both Renaults getting both their kind of cars into Q3, the only one outside of the top 3 constructors to do so. So that was very positive and very good qualifying sessions from both of their drivers. So now we get to the top 6, and most importantly, who finished on top. So I'll do it in ascending order. So I'll start with 6th and work my way up to 1st. So 6th was Vettel, and it was surprising because in Q1 and Q2, Ferrari's was showing really good pace actually in qualifying, and they were get to challenge the Mercedes and making it a lot closer than people thought it would be at the start, as me and Ashley. But no, in Q3, for whatever reason, they seemed to have lost their pace, and Vettel could only manage being 6th fastest. Then came the 2 Red Bulls. Gasly 5th, and this has been a very good weekend for him so far. He's going to hope to finish it up with a strong performance in the race. He's been good all through the practice sessions this weekend, and he manages to get 5th. So that's pretty good. I mean, obviously Red Bull came out and they showed their support, and it seems like that support has kind of helped him, and he's put it in with a 5th performance, which is very good, out qualifying that Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel. Verstappen then is in 4th on the grid, so he starts on that 2nd row, and he starts on that 2nd row with Charles Leclerc. So like I was saying, the Ferraris look good in Q1 and Q2, but when the Mercedes turned those kind of turned their engine up for that kind of extra qualifying pace, it paid off, and Leclerc could only manage P3. He was on the last lap. He did go fastest in sector 1, but he wasn't able to follow that through in sectors 2 and 3, and like I said, could only muster up a 3rd place qualifying position and get to the 2nd row on the grid. Now comes the close bit. So the first qualifying runs, Hamilton went out first and Bottas, and as Hamilton went out first, he actually, I can't remember the corners that he slipped up on. Might have been Brooklands and Luffield going into the last turn, but basically he lost the rear end, and that lost his time, and then Bottas was able to finish ahead of him. So he then took provisional pole on that aspect. And then neither of the Mercedes put in particularly good laps on their final laps, but the final split between them was 6 thousandths of a second. So very, very close, even with kind of Hamilton not putting in his best here. So I think there'll be a strong start tomorrow. It'll be very interesting to see whether Hamilton can take the lead early on that. But it was a big one probably mentally for Bottas to come to a track where Lewis is so strong at and beat him to the pole position. Even if Hamilton wasn't quite at his superior best in as he has been throughout this season in qualifying. But I think it sets up quite an exciting race. Obviously, we were expecting Ferrari to have good one-lap pace, because that is what their car is designed for, with that kind of low downforce. They are kind of the speed merchants on that. But the Mercedes 1-2, as predicted for a race finish, well, they've got half the job done because they've qualified there. So that's done for them. Will Verstappen get ahead of Leclerc? Will Leclerc have a very good race? I think we're in for quite an exciting one, really. Strategy might be interesting. A few safety cars might be interesting to see how it goes. Maybe it varies things up in the race, but at the moment, I suppose we could say, although very close between the Mercedes, as predicted, they're dominating with the 1-2 up top. So there you go, guys. That is a roundup of qualifying just watched there. Bottas pole, Lewis second, and then Leclerc third. So let's look forward to the race tomorrow. No, I cannot watch it live as I am at work. So I believe Ashley will be putting up a video for us. He's going to watch the race live tomorrow, and we'll be able to keep you guys up to date, with our thoughts after. And then on Tuesday or Wednesday, we will release our full race review of what hopefully should be quite an exciting race tomorrow. Anyway, waffled on a little bit there. So, as always, guys, if you like what we're doing, put a thumbs up. leave a comments if you want to leave any thoughts on what you thought of qualifying. Were you surprised by Ferrari's lack of pace going into that Q3? What do you think about what's going to happen for the race? Do you think the Red Bulls having a strong 4th and 5th, do you reckon they can go any better in the race and maybe challenge for a podium? And where do you think young Lando Norris, or who's going to be best of the rest in that field? Will it be Lando? Will it be Ricciardo? Will Sainz do better in the race as he's always been all throughout the season? Yeah, just comment below, see what your kind of guys' thoughts are. Follow us on Twitter at fanatics_F1. And guys, look forward to Ashley. We'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see you later on in the week. Cheers for that.